What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Probability. We're going to take a data-driven look into UFC Long Island. We're going to be looking at some over, some under, some fight goes, some fight doesn't go. And as you guys can tell, we are here on a Monday, which is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be much more beneficial than doing it on a Thursday. At this time, the lines are just now starting to drop. They haven't been hit as hard. So I think we're going to get a really big advantage just going and doing this show on Mondays, and it's going to be on Mondays going forward. So looking forward to that. Hopefully you guys are as well. And as always, we are here with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to a Monday night probability?
Dude, I'm really looking forward to this. I think this show is already beneficial for people that really want a data-driven look into what lines have value in terms of when you compare them against the available data. But isn't it way more useful to do this on Monday? You know, and I mean, that way you and I, we can have Thursdays off. We don't need to do that. But what good does it do on Thursday once the lines have already been smashed? It's like showing up to Thanksgiving dinner on Saturday. You know, there's not going to be anything left for you. It's just going to be a bunch of leftovers in the fridge. And frankly, it's better when you get it hot. So I'm fired up to move this show earlier back in the week. I was just telling Brady before this, I always promised myself I would never help people in life. I always wanted it to be all about Weezy all the time. But you know what? If we can help people by putting this show out earlier in the week, hey, let's help people, man. So let's look at these data-driven spots that I have here. Let's see if we can find some value in these lines and find ways to stack these cash tickets like flapjacks here for UFC Long Island.
Let's do it. And as always, you guys can help us out by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel as well. Do want to quickly shout out the chat. We got Brandon, first one in here. We got George in the chat as well. Philip, Modern Day, Shaman hanging out. We got Mushroom in the chat looking for some violence. Cole, Sloppy Seconds, Daz, Headley one. We got the Couch Warrior, Victor as well. Appreciate y'all hanging out. We got Spice Lean, Mr. D. See if I missed anybody here. We have a Dubs 99. And I think I got it. Grateful Dude as well. All right. We're going to get into it, guys. And as always, we're going to start with the very first fight of the night. And we have Emily Ducote going against Jessica Penne. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is minus 200. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 160. The fight goes to decision, minus 175. The fight doesn't go to decision. Is sitting at plus 145. Weezy, what's sticking out on the very first fight of the night?
Well, you know, it's a hard one because Ducote's making her debut. So we don't have any UFC data on Ducote. So I'm over here on the left side of the spreadsheet looking at the overall finish rates for both fighters here. And we see that Penne, in her 19 professional fights, 13 of them have finished inside the distance. For Ducote, it's just under half at 47.1%. We add those two together, 58.3% finish rate when we combine these two ladies' pro experience. So that's 27.5% better than the divisional finish rate, which is 30.84%. And it's about 17.5% better than the implied probability of the line. But, you know, I mean, like Jessica Penne only has 6 UFC fights, but 3 of them have finished inside the distance. So, you know, she's definitely finishing her fights, I should say, are finishing at a much higher rate, 20% higher than what the division finishes at, which is 30.84% in 3-round fights. So, yeah, we know that Jessica is a bit better of a finisher and that she's going to be chasing submissions here. You know, we don't really have much here on the bottom half of the sheet. We see that only 15 of their 36 combined fights have went to decision. That's 41%. And at the current lines, you know, we're seeing here the fight to not go is 40% implied probability. These fights are only finishing inside the distance about 30% of the time. So we're overpaying by about 10% for violence if we're looking, if we're comparing the implied probability of the fight doesn't go line to the divisional finish rate. So, you know, it looks like the fight goes actually has some value here. If you think that this is going to be a 3-round fight, minus 175 is not too much to pay. 63.64% implied probability, but 69% of strawweight fights do go to decision. And, you know, other than that, though, we're missing UFC data on Ducote. She is taking this fight on short notice, and Jessica's not particularly great in stand-up. She gets hit a lot, and Ducote has been submitted one time, but Jessica's very aggressive with the grappling. She's a veteran enough to go for it. And, I could see her getting a sub here. So I guess long story short, even though the fight goes is priced right, I'm a little bit scared to go after a fight goes with a debuting fighter and with a fighter who's really hunting for submissions like Jessica Penne.
Yeah, I think I'd lean towards the fight doesn't go, if anything, at plus 145 here. Ducote, she does have some power. I don't, she's not really that aggressive, kind of takes her time, picks her shots. I don't really love that. But yeah, Jessica Penne, very good on the mat. Ducote has been submitted before. Penny's been knocked out twice, although the knockout losses were against JJ, and I think other one was Jessica Andrade. I think it probably does go to decision, but I think there could be some sketchy spots here. One that I feel comfortable with just passing on. So I feel like we can move on to the next fight. We have Dwight Grant going against Dustin Stoltzfus. The over-under is set at 1.5 rounds. Over 1.5 rounds, minus 175. The under 1.5 rounds is plus 145. The fight goes to decision, plus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 165. And I'll tell you right now, Dwight Grant is just a very frustrating fighter to bet on. I mean, sometimes he goes out there, he looks dominant. He has a ton of power, knocks guys out. Sometimes he goes out there, he's low volume, not a ton going on in his fight. So I think it's a very tough fight to call whether it's going over or under here. And on top of that, Dwight Grant is coming up a weight class for the first time, so that's sketchy as well. I'm really curious to see the numbers on this one, Weezy, but it feels like one I'll probably be staying away from.
Yeah, these guys, I mean, I don't know how you can trust either one of them, but, if we look at the pro careers of both fighters, because we don't have huge sample sizes for either one of these guys in the UFC, 14 of their 24 combined wins coming inside the distance, 4 of their 9 combined losses coming inside the distance. So just over half of their pro career is finishing inside the distance when you combine them, 54.5%. If we look over here at the UFC experience, they are finishing their fights inside the distance 58% of the time. That's 3% better than the 55% we see for the divisional finish rate here at 185 pounds, and it's 5.3% worse than the implied probability of the line for the fight not to go to decision here at 63.64%. So 5 of their 12 combined fights have went to decision, we see here. And even at that price, it's 3% worse than the divisional decision rate of 44.7%, and we're overpaying by about 1% in comparison to the implied probability of the line. So they're really not even trying to tempt us that much, but there's probably just a little more value, in my opinion, on the fight goes prop and the over 2.5 prop here than there is on the violence props. But dude, I'm staying away. I have no feel for this fight. And if I were to lose money on it, it would just be very frustrating because I shouldn't be betting it in the first place, because Grant and Stoltzfus are a little bit unpredictable. So, yeah, man, I'm staying away from this one.
Absolutely. Tough one to call in general. I was thinking maybe the over 1.5 rounds, minus 175, but even then, Grant he has the power to go out there and start Stoltzfus. So I think it's one I'm going to stay away from as well. And I think we can absolutely move on to the next fight, which we have Dustin Jacoby going against Da Un Jung. Should be a very fun fight here with the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds is minus 150. Under 2.5 rounds is plus 120, and the fight goes to decision is minus 115. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 115. So a straight pick 'em here on Bet Online for whether the fight goes or doesn't go. So Weezy, let's take a look at the numbers in this one.
Okay, well, first, let's just note here that I had yesterday fight doesn't go at minus 140 and fight goes at plus 100. So there's some money coming in on the fight goes. So we got those now at minus 115 apiece, Brady?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what do we got for the over 2.5? Because that probably moved as well.
It's same thing, minus 150.
Minus 150. Okay, cool. So 6 of their 14 combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance here. That's 43%. So with only 43% of their fights finishing inside the distance and the fight doesn't go sitting at 53%, we're overpaying by 10.6% there when we compare it to the implied probability of the line. And these guys collectively at the UFC level are finishing fights at a much lower rate than the division is, which is 57% finish rate for the division, but these guys are only finishing at 42.9%. So right now it's showing the fight goes as having the value, but we see here now that that's starting to move And now instead of overpaying by about 7%, we're overpaying by about 10.78% when we compare that 57% finish rate, or what I should say is the 42% decision rate to the 53.5% implied probability of the line. So, yeah, it's showing 57% of their fights going to decision. These guys have been finished in only one of two losses. They're finishing 50% of the time. Yeah, this is a weird one. I would lean with the fight goes simply because these guys are only finishing less than half of their fights at the UFC level, and both have been pretty durable. But if we go back here to their pro careers, we see that Jacoby's been finishing 3 of 5 losses, and Jung has been finished in 1 of 2. So it's another one, man, where the thing appears to be priced pretty well. I thought the fight goes would have been a little bit better at plus 100, but now that it's minus 115, I'm not seeing much here either way.
Yeah, I think they're all over there. Plus money would have been nice. But yeah, one thing I do want to point out is Dustin Jacoby has 1 submission win, and I think Jung has 1, maybe 2 submission wins. And you take a look at their losses, Jacoby's been submitted twice, and Jung's been submitted once. So in a combined 39 fights, they've only been knocked out 1 time. So yeah, both guys have a good chin. I would be really shocked if either guy got a submission. So that's another reason I do like that over in the fight goes, but not getting that plus money on 5 dimes there. 5 dimes still does have it at plus 100. I like that, but it looks like the best price out there as of now is minus 115 on Bet Online. Guess we'll have to wait to see what FanDuel and DraftKings come out with. But if I can get that fight goes at plus money, I don't mind a shot at that. Again, both guys very tough.
Yeah, and you said it too, because if these guys are mostly being finished by submission, but neither one of these guys really goes for takedowns, then yeah, they're going to have to knock each other out in that case. And if neither one of these guys is in the habit of getting knocked out, then, you want to get that fight goes. But you always have to remind yourself, that's why I have this row right here, Brady, that, these numbers, because it compares the finish rate of the division to the implied probability of the line. So because of those 2 fat benchmarks with a whole ton of data behind them, when a line is getting juiced one way or another. And here we can see these over lines are getting juiced because we're overpaying 10.78% here, 15.25% here, and 14.36% here. But the reason that it gets juiced like that is because usually the data is telling us, yeah, this thing probably is going to decision because that's what these guys have done before.
Yep, absolutely. And I think those benchmarks are always a great thing to look at. Let us take a look at the next fight here. We have Bill Algeo going against Herbert Burns. There we go. Got it. So we have the over-under. It's set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds, minus 135. Under 2.5 rounds is plus 105. The fight goes to decision, plus 100. And the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 130. Weezy, I know you pulled the trigger on this one, so I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, so let's just go over here to the UFC data. Don't have a ton of fights here for either guy, but we do have a killer be killed fighter here in Herbert Burns, who's finished all 3 of his UFC wins and has been finished in his only UFC loss. And then we got a decisionator in Bill Algeo, who has both of his wins by decision and all 3 of his losses by decision. So whose style is going to come through here? Well, right now, the numbers are telling us that 4 of their 9 combined fights have finished inside the distance at the UFC level. That's 44%. So that is 1.3% better than the divisional finish rate of 43.18% that we have here at 145 pounds. And we're overpaying at minus 130 for the fight doesn't go to decision by 12.1%. So, but the problem here is that when we look at the styles of these 2 fighters, first of all, Herbert Burns hasn't fought in over a year. And Herbert Burns has missed weight by 4.5 pounds in his last 2 fights. Plus, Herbert Burns is, 34, 35 years old. So he's kind of getting to that point where, as a featherweight, you don't have much time left. So the conditioning, because of these problems that he's had making weight the last 2 times, is a serious problem here. Herbert Burns has shown that he's got about 6 minutes of gas, and that's a serious problem. And I love it when I see something happening in the cage And then people on Twitter start showing pictures of mixed martial artists with their shirt off and being like, wow, he looks like he's in great shape. Well, yeah, you fight in the UFC. You're kind of supposed to be in good shape. You have to make weight, all that kind of stuff. But I love it when people post pictures and are like, whoa, look at that picture. Because while they're looking at a picture that was taken at one, small second in time, I'm looking at all this data, which has taken place over their entire career. And I'm watching them on tape and I'm seeing what jumps out off the page. And Herbert Burns is extremely dangerous with his submission grappling, and his wrestling isn't bad. But he also has a piss poor gas tank, and Bill Algeo is the opposite. Bill Algeo can go a full 15 minutes, a full 25 minutes if he needed to, and is a horrible opponent to lose your gas tank against. So I am liking the violent side of this one. I hit the under 2.5 at plus 105 today for one unit. Because of the killer be killed nature of Herbert Burns, because of the poor gas tank of Herbert Burns, because of Herbert Burns missing weight in his last two fights, being 34 years old, having over a year layoff since his last fight, and then you combine that with Algeo's conditioning, and I think it's either Algeo getting subbed in the first round or Burns getting knocked out in the second or third.
Yep, and I think you summed it up perfectly right there. Burns, round 1, Algeo, round 2, and round 3. I think violence is the answer here. The fight doesn't go minus 130, under 2.5, plus 105 on Bet Online and 5 dimes. On DraftKings, they open it up, and it's plus 110 right now. I don't know how much longer that's going to be there, but that's something I'm definitely considering is some violence here, especially if Herbert Burns comes in and misses weight again. I will like it even better. Like if Herbert Burns looks like crap on the scale, misses weight, I will like it a lot more than I already do. So I think I might hop on now. I don't know if I'll be able to wait till Friday. I don't know if the line will still be there, but if Herbert Burns looks like crap, I think I like it even more.
Yeah, and you really do need to see Herbert on the scale, especially if you're thinking of betting him, because if he takes the full 2 hours to weigh in and looks like crap up there, because it doesn't get easier to make weight when you've missed weight before. When you're missing weight at 32, when you're missing weight at 33, it doesn't get easier when you're 34. Plain and simple. Yeah. Take it from a 48-year-old. Nothing gets fucking easier when you get older.
Yeah, exactly. And funny you mentioned about the picture thing. I think that's hilarious. The only time I think I posted a picture or looked into that was Yazong Hu. And look how that worked out for me. He looked really good in on the picture, but in the cage, you look like complete shit.
Yeah, dude. And I remember you sent me a picture of Duran Win before the Hawes fight. Remember that?
Yes,
you were like, dude, he looks pretty good. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, he probably won't look good in the cage. And that was the case. But Hawes is a super tough opponent. So, it is what it is. But yeah, man, don't look at the pictures. Look at the data. Look at the film, man. That's where you're going to get the best picture of what's going to happen.
I didn't send the picture of Win because he looked good. I sent it because he looked 5'2" in that picture.
He did. He
so small.
I can't believe that guy can barely make 185, and he is so small, so short. It's bizarre.
It is bizarre, but let us keep moving on. I think that's a decent violent spot there. To the next one, we have Jack Shore going against Ricky Simón. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5, minus 215, under 2.5, plus 175. Weezy, you hit me up Sunday, and you were like, the over dropped at minus 155, and it got smashed immediately to minus 200, and now it's minus 215. So money continuing to pour in on that, and I think it probably does continue. The fight goes to decision, sitting at minus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision, is sitting at plus 155. Weezy, what's sticking out in this one?
This is such a great fight. First of all, these are two of the top grapplers in the 135-pound division. Shore's wrestling, judo, grappling, all top-notch. Ricky Simon's wrestling and grappling, all top-notch. Both of these guys bring the gas tank to push a grappling heavy pace for the full 15 minutes. Jack Shore is the better finisher here. He's finished 12 of his 16 pro wins for 75%, while Simon has finished 9 of 19 wins for 47%. So Shore's the better finisher, and Simon has been finished in 2 of 3 losses. So if there's somebody that's more likely to finish this fight, it's probably Shore, but we've never seen Shore lose, so we don't know if he can be finished or not. But both of these guys, are Simon's fights finishing inside the distance is a pro 50% of the time, and for Shore, it's 75% of the time. And then if we go here to the UFC stats, we're going to see that 6 of their 15 fights have finished inside the distance. That's only 40%. So for the fight goes to decision line, we've got a minus 180. So that is 64% implied probability, but 60% of their fights are going to decision combined. So that's actually 9.4% better than the divisional decision rate, which is sitting right around 50%. And we're only overpaying at this current line by about 4.3%, which isn't too bad. But I think it's when you look at the stylistic matchup of this fight, right? Both of these guys, Ricky Simon attempts 9 to 10 takedowns per fight, and for sure it's something like 6. These guys aren't going to stand in front of each other and just bang until one man falls. I think that they're going to be trading takedowns, scrambling, really desperately trying to find positions where they can win minutes and hold their opponent down. I don't see this fight finishing inside the distance. I love the fight goes to decision here. Minus 180, minus 190, minus 200, minus 210 even. I think it's a parlay piece. I just can't picture how this fight finishes. I really can't. These guys are so well matched in all the grappling categories, and they're both really looking to grapple first. Whichever one decides that, I think I'm feeling my striking, they're going to get shot on the second they start to have that thought by their opponent. Both of these guys are so good in the grappling. I think it's just going to be a grappling match. Love the fight goes.
Yep, same here. Both guys, great grapplers. I believe Simón has his black belt as of recent. If there is a finish, like you said, it's probably on the Jack Shore side. He's the better finisher. Jack Shore, 75% finish rate to Simón's 47%. And Ricky Simón has been finished in 2 of his 3 losses, one coming against Uriah Faber. Don't know what happened there. And then also a submission loss against Anderson Dos Santos back in 2016 in Titan FC. But other than that, Simón's very tough, very durable outside of that Faber fight, which probably was a one-off. And then, of course, he is now a black belt in BJJ. So I think, grappling should cancel each other out. Don't really see Shore knocking out Ricky Simón. I think the fight goes minus 190, minus 180 on 5 dimes, and also going to see what FanDuel and DraftKings drop it at. But, a fight goes to decision is something I'm definitely looking at for this week.
Yeah, and it's not terribly overpriced, for guys that mostly go to decision. To only overpay 13.73% when you compare that 49% or that 50% decision rate to the 64% implied probability of the line, it's really not that bad. And if you don't feel like, paying minus 200 or so, parlay it with something else. Bring it back down to even money, and I'm sure we can find you one more parlay piece somewhere on this card, Brady, even if it's just the Algeo Burns under 2.5 or the Algeo Burns fight doesn't go.
Yep, I think it's a decent parlay piece for sure. So I wonder if, that's probably going to move pretty soon. Looks like money's pouring in on that over 2.5. That opener minus 155 would have been freaking awesome.
That would have been a max bet, dude. That was one when I looked at the prop template. I was like, oh man, Shore Simon. I had already taped the fight. I'm like, dude, this is going to be a wrestling match, plain and simple. And I don't see anybody getting finished. So yeah, that's just going to keep getting juiced.
Yep, I feel the same way. All right, let's keep moving on. Kind of a weird one here. We have Punahele Soriano going against Dalcha Lungiambula. The over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5, minus 165. Money's coming in on that. Did open up minus 140. Under 1.5, plus 135. The fight goes to decision, plus 170. And the fight doesn't get decision is minus 210. What is sticking out on this one here, Weezy?
Yeah, this is, first of all, the thing that stuck out is Dalcha here is not as good of a finisher as I thought. Only 6 of 11 wins by finish, And I mean, you look at the dude, and you think he could finish a Mack truck, but really he's only finishing, just over half of his pro wins and exactly half of his UFC wins. Now, Soriano has finished 7 of 8 wins. He's never been finished, so both of these guys, more than their 50% of their fights have finished inside the distance. And if we look over here, we have 10 fights at the UFC level, 50% of them finishing inside the distance. So At minus 185 for fight doesn't go. Hang on just a second.
You're good. I can hit up the chat for a second. What's up, guys? We got Tajik Bay in the chat. The GOAT. We got Raw Torque hanging out. We got Uncle Weezy back with us. What is up, Uncle Weezy? Mushroom in the chat as well. Spicely. Appreciate all you hanging out. You guys can please leave a like. Around 50 of you in here with us on a Monday. Weezy, we're back.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, just Bootsy's going nuts, man. He likes Dalcha quite a bit, evidently, and I don't know if I agree with him. I tried to have a talk with him when he was on Ike Villanueva against Tyson Pedro, but, he's got his own mind, so, but, yeah, look, 5 of 10 finishing inside the distance, that does not inspire confidence to me, especially when you're paying minus 185. This division has a 55% finish rate. You're paying 65% for the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 185. So you're overpaying there by about 9.46%. You're overpaying by 15% when you compare the implied probability of the line to the 50% finish rate of these two guys. And you're overpaying by 5.5% when it comes to the divisional finish rate of 55.5%. So what that tells us is if we go down here to the fight goes, we've got a 9.2% break when we compare the 50% decision rate to the implied probability of the fight goes line, a 5.5% break when we see when we compare the divisional decision rate to that 50%, and a 3.73% break when we get the fight goes at plus 145, a 40.82% probability when 44% of 185-pound fights are going to decision. That's what I like to call the trifecta. It just means that people are using their eyes. They're looking at two big bricked-up dudes like Soriano and Lungiambula and saying, look, somebody's getting their head punted into the cheap seats. And I get it. Dude, if one of these guys lands a big shot, it's going to be hard for the other ones to continue standing. But when we compare it against the 10 combined fights that these guys have had at the UFC level, we're not seeing value in paying minus 185. The value would be sitting there with your butthole clenched to about this small and hoping that plus 145 comes through. I don't know if I'm that brave, but that's the way that the prop template is telling us to go. And you can always take comfort when you've got that trifecta of numbers in your favor. Plus 3.73, plus 5.5, and plus 9.2, that you're making the right analytics bet. And if it comes through, you look like a genius and you're getting plus money. So that's the way the prop template is telling me to do it. Do I want to have one unit on that and saying hopefully Dalcha and Puna don't swing big? No thanks, dude. It's one of those things that it's fine if you're not watching the fights. Then make the small bet and, hopefully the analytics fall your way. But boy, oh boy, I'm not touching this one, dude.
Yeah, to be honest, I think if this fight does not finish in the first round, it probably goes the full 15. Like these guys, both guys, their cardio is pretty terrible. So I'd be worried about the first 5 minutes. That would be 5 minutes that I'd be very terrified of because both guys hit like trucks. But again, both guys are very durable. I think once those 5 minutes do pass, both guys will start to slow down. I could see it being kind of like a sloppy fight. So yeah, fight goes to decision does make some sense. But and by the way, it's a plus 170 on Bet Online for the fight goes.
Yeah, see, now at that price, if I throw that in there, that goes up to 7.5% there, and down here, that's 13% now, and this is still 5.5%. So yeah, there's some value there, and like I say, it's a bet that you make, and hopefully you forget you made it while you're watching the fight, so you can just enjoy that fight, because it's going to be terrifying for it to bet fight goes for this fight just because of the two men involved. But the analytics are telling us to go that way.
Yeah. I mean, it would be terrifying, but if I was forced to pick a side, it would be on that fight goes. I'm not laying minus 210 on the fight doesn't go in this fight, but should be a fun one. Let us move on to the next fight here. We have Lauren Murphy going against Miesha Tate, and we're going to see the most juiced over lines on the entire card here. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds is minus 350. Under 2.5, plus 275. The fight goes to decision, minus 300. And the fight doesn't go at plus 240. Weezy, what is sticking out on this one?
So this is very, very, very juiced, dude. And what's sticking out is if we go over here to the other stats that I have, this first thing that we're just going to talk about is we have a 38-year-old Lauren Murphy going up against a 35-year-old Miesha Tate. Just got to keep that in mind. That is an important data point for this fight. Second data point, Miesha Tate cutting down to 125 pounds for the first time in her career at the age of 35. And she's got breast implants that she says weigh 4 pounds. And those 4-pound breast implants, you know, she was already having trouble making 135 because of that. So right now we've already got kind of some factors in there that would tell us, okay, maybe I don't want to lay minus 300 on anything in this fight, right, Brady? You know, I mean, laying 3 units to win 1, you better be damn sure. And it's hard to be damn sure about anything when you got a 38-year-old going up against a 35-year-old. You've got Tate coming off a recent pregnancy and how many year layoff prior to the pregnancy. Now there's been 2 fights since. Now she's cutting down to 125. She got breast implants. There's a lot of red flags here. And we're paying minus 275 for the fight goes to decision. The implied probability of that line, 73.33%. But these fights are only finishing inside the distance 40% of the time. So 59% of the time, these fights are going to decision, but we're paying 73. So we're overpaying by 14.24% for a line that's minus 275. Also, we go down here. 13 out of their 22 fights have went to decision collectively at the UFC level. That's 59%. So that is actually right on the 59% divisional decision rate for 125 pounds. But the implied probability of the line for fight goes, we're overpaying by 14.2%. So you might be looking to make this a parlay piece. I would encourage you not to. And I would even say, you know, since their fights are finishing inside the distance 41% of the time, and the implied probability of the fight, they're going to decision 59% of the time, but only 40% of the time are we finishing inside the distance. We're only paying 33 there. So we're actually getting some value, and you're getting a big plus number at plus 195. I'm not recommending that you make that bet. I'm just saying the analytics are telling you that the fight goes to decision, the over 2.5. They're juiced to the tits. There's no value there. And if you mess up on that bet, you know, you're laying 2.75 units to win 1, 3.5 units to win 1. You need to be very, very sure. And there's too many red flags. So the only bet that I can actually encourage people to make would be fight doesn't go or the under 2.5.
Yeah, and the fight doesn't go on BetOnline is plus 240, but even then, I just can't see myself betting on this fight, whether it's a money line, which, by the way, Miesha Tate's like minus 215 now, minus 220. I don't know what's going on there, but I can't look at any of the props. Just too many red flags, too many question marks. I think I'm fine with just staying away from this one here. Let us move on to the next one, though. We have probably one of the best fights on the card. We have Shane Burgos going against Charles Jourdain. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. Over 2.5 is minus 170. The under 2.5 is plus 140. The fight goes to decision, minus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 110. Looks like 5 Dimes is the only book that has props out. And this one is a tough one, Weezy, because I see these guys getting into an all-out war here, just standing in the middle and banging for 15 minutes. Both guys are super dangerous, but both guys are also super durable. So kind of a tricky one here, Weezy. And like we talked about on Stat Diggers, if you have an over or a fight goes, you are going to be sweating from the very start. So curious to see what the numbers say about this one, Weezy.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a good fight, first of all. I can't wait for this fight. These guys are all excitement all the time, and they're complete warriors. So this is a treat. But the one thing that I always want to keep, I feel like I need to mention it every week, Brady, is there's the 145-pound, the featherweight trap, I call it, because bantamweight fights finishing at 50%. Lightweight fights finishing at 50%. Welterweight fights finishing at 50%. Featherweight fights, 43%. 7% lower than those weight classes that are bracketing it. So whenever you're thinking of betting violence in a 145-pound fight, you always think you're getting a little bit better price than you actually are, because for some reason, featherweight fights finish at a statistically significant lower rate than these other fights in the weight classes around it. But 25 of their 35 combined fights have finished inside the distance. That's 71%. And we've got a good size of 18 fights at the UFC level here, and they're finishing 50% of the time. 5 of 10 for Burgos, 4 of 8 for Jourdain. They both have an exactly 50% finish rate for and against. So for fight doesn't go to decision, you're getting plus 115. Is that still right? Is plus 110 is what you're showing?
Yeah, it's now plus 110. So money did come in on it a bit.
And what do you have for fight goes?
Minus 150.
Okay, so a little bit better there. So we're right here at that 50% mark. So right now I'm showing some value for the fight doesn't go, Brady, because 50% compared against the 47.62% implied probability of the line, that's given us a 2.4% edge. And we're actually finishing 50% of their fights. That's 6.8% better than 43.18% of featherweight fights that finish inside the distance. So, yeah, at plus money for fight doesn't go, for two guys who very rarely try takedowns, who throw with a ton of power, and who neither one of them are particularly defensively sound either. It feels like that would be the bet to make. And the analytics like it as well. Even though we have the 6.8% edge and the 2.4% edge here, it's very rare that we find those trifectas. But usually when we find two, in the green like this, we'll find something pretty nasty here. But we're only overpaying 4.44%. So yeah, plus 110 is a bettable line for violence here, in my opinion. And you'll get to cheer for what should be the natural conclusion of a fight between two guys that hit as hard as these two guys and who are as big of warriors as they are.
Yeah, and I can guarantee we're going to get some knockdowns. There's been at least one knockdown in 8 of 10 Shane Burgos fights. So somebody's going to get dropped, whether they get finished, I don't know. But yeah, plus money on that. It's interesting because both guys are great finishers. Jourdain has finished all but one of his wins, 92%. Shane Burgos, a 72% finish rate. Shane Burgos has taken a ton of damage and is willing to take damage. He's been knocked out twice at this point. And then Jourdain has only been submitted. So yeah, I think I would lean violence at plus money there. Don't have access to it now. Plus 110. It was plus 115 on 5 dimes. We'll have to see what BetOnline and FanDuel and DraftKings, all those open it up at. But I think I would definitely lean violence. And they're going to stand and bang. They're going to stand and bang until one man falls. I think I'd rather much more beyond that plus money fight doesn't go.
Yeah, agreed, man. And that's just how you want to root for this fight. Whether you're on the Jourdain side, whether you're on the Burgos side, or whether you're just on the side of violence. I feel like that fight doesn't go is the bet to have for this one. And the analytics like it too.
The analytics like it. Uncle Weezy likes it. I like it. So yeah, I might be betting that if I can get it at plus money. I'm hoping I can. Move on to the next fight. This is a weird one, Weezy. We have Sumidargi going against Matt Schnell here. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. Over 2.5 plus 100. The under 2.5 is minus 130. You talked about how we have to be really mindful of those 145-pound fights. We also have to be really mindful of these 125-pound fights as well, as they don't have the best finishing rate. And typically when I am going to bet a 125-pound fight, I have to be very confident in it. Like, for example, I was very confident in the Durden JP Bays fight doesn't go, got that at plus money. And it looks like they're all over this one. So minus 125 for the fight doesn't go to decision on 5 dimes, but on BetOnline, it's minus 155. I don't know if I can get there. I think this fight does finish. It makes sense that it will finish. Schnell's been knocked out a ton. Mudaerji's been submitted in all 4 of his losses. I think stylistically this should finish, but laying minus 155 on a 125-pound fight, I was hoping to get plus money on it, but they're much smarter than that, Weezy.
Yeah, and we don't have much of a sample size for Sue here, so let's just look at the pro careers here first to get an idea of how good of finishers these guys are. 76% combined finish rate in 29 wins. 82% combined finish rate in 11 combined losses. So that's even better. So that makes a 77.5% finish rate in their 40 combined pro fights. So we love that. A lot of green here. And then when we go over here to the UFC data, 5 of their 6 combined losses at the UFC level are inside the distance. That screams violence, but it's not like either one of these guys are great finishers, 2 of 5 and 1 of 3. But the fact that they're both that they're each one of them is facing a guy that's not very durable is what you like to see when you're wanting finishes. So that fight doesn't go at minus 125, has a 55.56% implied probability. And we see that big number here at 15.64% when we compare it against the 39.9% finish rate of the division. But that's what we expect to see when we see big numbers like this, a 57% finish rate. And then not only that, we're still even getting a 1.6% value when we compare the 57% finish rate to the implied probability of the line at minus 125. So at minus 125, it's not like a parlay piece or anything, but I think it lines up really nice. 5 of 6 combined UFC losses inside the distance. Sumidargi has been submitted in all 4 of his losses, and Matt Schnell's got a fantastic submission game. Unfortunately, he doesn't wrestle much. And Matt Schnell is known to be chinny, and we know that Sumidargi is a great kickboxer, very accurate with a lot of power. So even though we're overpaying a little bit here at minus 125 when we compare that 39% finish rate to the 55% implied probability of the line, when we compare that 55% to the 57%, we see that it's still not quite overpriced yet if we consider these two guys' UFC careers as a whole.
Yep. So if you have 5 dimes, there you go, minus 125. I might take it there, but minus 155 on BetOnline is the best price I can get. Now, what does minus 155 get to?
Yeah, that's
overpaying
much worse.
By a ton.
Yeah, that's
20%.
5% more of implied probability. Now you're overpaying by 21% when you compare that 40% finish rate to the 60% implied probability of the line. And we're overpaying now at 3.6% at minus 155. So that's when it starts to tell us, okay. And then for Fight Goes, I feel like we should be getting a plus money number there. But if we do, that's when you start saying, oh shit, I'm paying less than 50% for Fight Goes when 60% of flyweight fights go to decision. So it's another way of just looking. Once it goes too far, you can go the other way as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I was forced to play anything, it had to be on that fight. Doesn't go, but minus 155, just can't get there. Maybe FanDuel and DraftKings will get out something, but it looks like they are definitely all over it. When taping this fight, I wrote down plus money, fight doesn't go to decision. That's what I was looking for, and just not going to get it. They're all over it. So probably just sit back and pass. Maybe look at like a Sumidargi prop. And by the way, Schnell by decision opened up at minus 1 or plus 1,000 and is currently plus 950. So if you like Schnell by that's probably his path to victory. Mudaerji's been submitted in all 4 of his losses. So Schnell by submission plus 950, Mudaerji plus money KO rather than laying minus 260. I think those are how I'm going to play it rather than laying the minus 155 here.
Wow. Plus 1,000, 950. I mean, wow.
Crazy.
Wow. That's juicy for a guy like Schnell with those triangle chokes that he gets them, man. I mean, he's not quite Paul Craig with the triangle, but you don't want to be in Matt Schnell's triangle, and but he just doesn't wrestle enough. But that's juicy enough to play. But these props are over minus 155. Man, I can't do it.
I can't do it either. I wonder what FanDuel's going to put out that Schnell stuff. If BetOnline's putting it out at plus 1,000, I can't only imagine what FanDuel's going to get it out at. So yeah, that might be I think I got to take a shot on that Schnell submission prop. If it's like plus 1,200, plus 1,400, that's just nuts to me. That's how he wins. So have to look out for that. We have a couple more fights here, guys. 3 more. We have Muslim Salikhov going against Jingliang. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is -165. The under 2.5 is +135. The fight goes to decision, -130. The fight doesn't go to decision is +100 on FanDuel. The fight goes to decision, opened up at +104. It's now -106, and the fight doesn't go on FanDuel is -122. So almost a pick 'em here on most sites. Weezy, what's sticking out on this one?
So Salikhov, 14 of 18 wins inside the distance, both losses inside the distance. So 80% of Salikhov's 20 pro fights have finished inside the distance, 60% for Jingliang. So combine them, that's 69%. So a lot of green on that left side. And over here, we got 21 combined fights for these two gentlemen. Fight doesn't go sitting at -105. Is that what you got? You got +100?
Yeah, +100 on Bet Online.
Okay. So that's a 50% implied probability, but these guys are finishing inside the distance 57% of the time. That's 8.5% better than the divisional finish rate of 48.62. And it's 7.1% better than the implied probability of the line. And the implied probability of the line, when we compare it to the divisional finish rate, is only 1.38% overpriced. So we almost have the trifecta here for the violence prop here, as we're only overpaying by 1.38% here, but we're getting a 7% break here and an 8.5% break here. So, and then if you look at the stylistic implications of this matchup, Lee's not much of a wrestler. Salikhov barely wrestles at all. And they're both very dangerous on the feet with a lot of power. You know, I could see somebody landing a big shot here. I would lean the violence here, and if fight doesn't go at +100, it's not a bad look.
Yep, I think I would lean the violence as well. Just, stylistically how this matchup, matches up. Like Salikhov, very, very dangerous, hits like a truck. Same thing with the Leech. He hits very hard as well. Leech has knocked out some very good guys also. Salikhov, 78% finish rate. The Leech, 72% finish rate. The only concern I have is in 45 professional fights, neither guy's ever been knocked out. Salikhov, 2 submission losses, and the Leech, 2 submission losses. Neither guy been finished by knockout. I guess that's my one concern. Both guys extremely tough, have great chins.
Yeah, neither one of these guys is submitting the other. So, but then again, it's fight goes is juiced at -135 here. And, these guys are going to decision only 9 of 21 times. That's 43%. We're overpaying there by 14.6% when we compare it to the implied probability of the line, and 8.5% when we compare it to the divisional decision rate. So, I think that people are using their eyes and thinking because Muslim Salikhov is low volume that this is just going to go to decision. But both of these guys have got an incredible amount of power, and they're very precise with their striking, and neither one of them initiates the grappling much. So maybe we will see one of them get knocked out for the first time, but if it's never happened before, oh man, and you have to pay juice for fight goes, I think it's a stay away.
Yeah, it probably is a stay away, but I think, the Leech could come in here, make it a more exciting fight, bring the pace, force Salikhov to do things. I think I'd more so be on that fight. Doesn't go at plus money, if anything. See, I did want to bring up a comment here. Locoman shakes fist saying he maxed out the Jingliang scorecards, no action on my account. +155. Someone else carried the draw. I think it's a good look. The Leech is extremely, extremely tough to finish. Never been knocked out. I don't hate that at +155. And then also we have a dono. Praduma, what is up? Saying, Miss Stat Diggers, thank you for another 11 units of profit. There you go. This past week, best MMA stats breakdown on YouTube. You guys are the best. You are the best. Appreciate the dono. Love to hear you had a great night. 11 units is awesome. That's awesome, especially on Saturday's card. That was a tough one there. So congrats to you. And see if I missed anything else. All right. I think we can keep moving on. FanDuel has the fight goes at -106. Yes, they do. Salikhov throws less than a 1960s NFL team. I would have no idea. I did not watch the NFL in the 1960s, and Weezy, I don't think you did either. I think you're muted though.
I wasn't even born yet, but he's so right about that, dude. They had no quarterbacks that could throw the ball more than 5 yards downfield, man. So yeah, it was all running back then.
That's so true. I love it, Spicely. All right, we'll move on to the next fight. We have the co-main event. We have Amanda Lemos going Against Michelle Waterson here, we have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds, minus 240. Under 2.5 is plus 190. The fight goes to decision, minus 215. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 175. This is a tricky one, Weezy, because Amanda Lemos, she's extremely dangerous. She has a ton of power. It's just Michelle Waterson is extremely tough. So, yeah, I don't know which way I lean yet. I'm probably leaning more so on the Lemos by decision, but let's see what the numbers say on this one.
Yeah, so do me a favor because I told you I screwed up this one, so we have to go to the original Excel sheet here. What do you have for fight doesn't go?
So the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 175.
175 and the fight goes?
Minus 215.
215. And what we got for over 2.5 and under?
Minus 240 to the over and plus 190 to the under.
Okay, so 8 of their 18 combined fights have went to decision, but we've got to look here and we see that it's 5 of 7 for Lemos and only 3 of 11 that have finished inside the distance for Waterson. So obviously Lemos, the much more deadly fighter here, the much more powerful fighter. But 8 of their 18 combined fights have finished inside the distance at the UFC level, 44%. And we see here for the violence props, we're getting a 3.5% edge when we compare that 44.4% against the 40.9% finish rate of the division. And then we're getting an 8.1% break when we compare that to the implied probability of the line at 36.36%. And we get the trifecta here, Brady. We get a 4.55% break when we compare the 40.9% finish rate with only the 36% finish rate of the implied probability of this line at plus 175. So, I mean, you have to lean violence here, and you've got Amanda Lemos, who hits like a truck. So I could go for a fight doesn't go to decision bet here, or even if you want to be greedier, let's try to get Amanda Lemos inside the distance at better than plus 175. What can we get Amanda inside the distance at?
No, that's
because I don't think Michelle Waterson is finishing her.
So Lemos inside the distance plus 215.
A little bit better. Yeah, that would probably be how I would play the violence prop. I'd want to get greedy because I don't see Michelle getting a win inside the distance here. And, and even then, Michelle's only been finished in 1 of 5 losses, while Lemos has been finished in both of her losses. So that's interesting, too. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would think that Lemos can get finished if she's been finished in both losses. That standing arm triangle is weird, though. I was not expecting her to get finished like that. And then she got finished by Leslie Smith up at 135 in her UFC debut. So I don't know how much that means either. But the prop template is blessing the violence prop here. If we look at the fight goes, we're overpaying by 9.16% there. And then we're overpaying by 12.7% when we compare the 55% decision rate to the implied probability of the decision line. And we're overpaying by 3.5% when we compare it to the divisional decision rate. So, the template here loves violence.
Yeah, this one's a weird one. I don't know, man. I think I would have to get violence at plus 175. You take a look at Michelle Waterson, and she has been finished a ton, but she got finished back in 2007 by a submission against Lynn Alvarez. She got submitted back in 2009 against Elena Reed. And then the only time she was submitted in the UFC or finished in the UFC was against Rose Namajunas. So she's been finished a good amount, but a lot of those are outside the UFC. And then, Lemos, could she knock her out potentially? I think I would more so lean towards like a Lemos decision than the inside the distance, which Lemos by decision is, I'm not playing that. It's minus 110. And then I saw somebody in the chat say Waterson by decision plus 700. That got smashed. It was plus 700. Now it's plus 500. So people are all over that. Yeah, kind of a weird one here, Weezy. I could see it going to decision, but I don't want to, stand in front of the power of Amanda Lemos.
Yeah, and they're not paying you to, So, I mean, if it goes to decision, you're overpaying for it anyway. And you're forgetting about the fact that Lemos has been finished in both of her UFC losses, that, Michelle Waterson's getting older, up a weight class. Both of these ladies are up a weight class here. This is Waterson's second fight, I believe, at 125, because she took one at short notice there. Yeah. And this will be Lemos' first one. So some red flags, getting plus 175 for fight doesn't go. That might be, there's some of these spots that are the contrarian spots that are big plus numbers that are interesting.
Yeah, and those spots tend to hit, more often than not, and you get good money on them. Just going the other way on some of these. So, I think that's an interesting one. But we have the main event here. We have Brian Ortega going against Yair Rodriguez. We have the over-under is set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 plus 100. The under 4.5 is minus 130. The fight goes to decision plus 120. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 150. And I'm pretty upset. The fight doesn't go to decision on FanDuel. We talked about this on the main event deep dive, which, by the way, if you guys have not seen that, we did that earlier. Go check it out after the show. But the fight doesn't go on FanDuel was minus 110 last night. Woke up this morning, minus 148. And I liked it at minus 110. I didn't love it. I'm not sure if I was going to play it, but now that it's minus 148, I think I'm just completely content with passing here. But the minus 110 stuck out a little bit. Minus 148, not so much. Weezy, what are the numbers saying about this on the main event? And also we can get into those 5-round analytics as well, which I like doing.
Absolutely. So we can see that their combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance 11 of 21 times, so just over 50%. That's 9.2% better than the 43% finish rate for the division, and it's 7% worse than the implied probability of the line here at 59.35%. But back at, when it was around plus 100, that was actually better than the implied probability of the line. So right now they kind of opened it about where they should have, and now it's getting juiced, and now, the value is clearly here on the fight goes to decision at plus 130 because, 43.5% of these fights are going, that's the implied probability of the line, but 56% are going to decision in 3-round fights. But this is a 5-round fight. And at the featherweight division, 5-round fights are going the distance only 43.2% of the time. But that's actually right there. That's what we're paying. But they're finishing inside the distance 56.8% of the time. And this is a 59.35% implied probability. So if you compare it to the benchmark, this shows the 3-round benchmark. But in reality, you're only overpaying by about less than 3% when you compare it to the long-term benchmark for 5-round fights. So I guess it just depends on how you think it's going to go. Because we all know that no matter what happens, Brian Ortega is always live to catch a submission. And he doesn't even have to get a takedown to do it. It could just be in a scramble. It can be in a knockdown. It can be that he goes for a guillotine with his back up against the fence. He's dangerous everywhere. And obviously, Yair Rodriguez, one thing that I like about him is he spams those low leg kicks. Looked great doing it against Holloway. And I know that Brian Ortega doesn't like them. Holloway was having some success against Ortega with those low leg kicks. So I see why people are blasting that fight doesn't go to decision, but it's just gotten a little bit out of hand. And both of these guys are extremely durable. So that could be frustrating if you have a violence bet here. I mean, I could endorse it at minus 110, but I can't endorse it at minus 146.
Same here. I could definitely endorse it at minus 110. But even like minus 110, like I wasn't extremely crazy about. So I'm not too upset about missing the line, but I'm not minus 150. Just can't really get there. I lean this fight finishing inside the distance. I do lean towards Ortega finishing it inside the distance. But I just don't think I'll get there from like a fight doesn't go perspective there. But we did it, Weezy. Went through 12 fights. I guess the last thing we have to do is talk about a probability parlay. Anything like really sticking out this week?
So definitely that fight goes to decision for Simon Shore. I think it's a great spot, and it's juiced up to about minus 200. So that's a great parlay piece for me. That would be a great start. Maybe we can find like an over 1.5. Maybe we can find an under 2.5 to go along with it. That Algeo violence still is sticking out to me. But the only fear that I have about that one being in a parlay is Burns shows up, makes weight, looks great, and it turns out that it was an injury that was causing him to not be able to make weight for his last couple of fights. And now that he's in shape and ready to go, that he'll have the full 15-minute gas tank. But even if that happens, he's going to be live to lock up a submission because this dude is, on another level with his submission grappling. He's very, very dangerous. So I think that's another potentially good spot. Were there any like juiced up spots that like we could do? For instance, well, I mean, I don't know about Tate Murphy just because it's just I don't want to have any money on that fight. What's an over 1.5 in Lungiambula Soriano? Minus 145.
Scary, but I think it hits, but scary.
Yeah, very scary. What about Jacoby Jung? Over 1.5 is minus 215. That's juiced. Why don't we just do a Burns Algeo fight doesn't go?
All right, we will look. Yeah, minus 130 for that fight doesn't go. And that'll come out to plus 170. Not terrible at all.
Plus 170. The probability parlay is going to be fight goes to decision for Simon Shore and fight doesn't go to decision for Algeo Burns.
Perfect. I liked it. Like a little bit two-legger there. Let's see if we got anything else in the chat. I think we're all caught up, guys. So, yeah, guys, we did it. We went through all 12 of the fights on a Monday. Thank you all for hanging out, and we will be back next Monday. It's going to be a regular thing now on Mondays after the Die Hard MMA podcast. So we'll be going around like 9:30 p.m. Eastern time each and every Monday. And I think I like it a lot better that way. It gives you a much earlier look. We don't have to wait till Thursday. By then, all the lines are smashed, not a ton of value left. But we're doing it now, and we're going to get a lot of value out of this show, I feel like, Weezy.
Absolutely, man. And by the time that, just getting it out on Monday instead of Thursday is going to be so much more opportunity for our audience to be able to beat this line movement and be able to beat it by using these analytics, which we're giving away for free. So I hope I hope this being earlier in the week not only helps you and I, Brady, but helps everybody else out there who's looking to let the data be their guide and push them into the spots that make the most sense.
Absolutely. All right. So other than that, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe. Weezy, you are going out of town, but you're still doing your Just the Tip tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, I'm going to, as long as the internet works where I'm going, I'm planning on doing Just the Tip at the usual time, 10 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night to break down all 12 fights on this card. And then after that, Brady, I'm going to be done for the week because I'm out of town going to a wedding. I won't even be back until Sunday. So after Just the Tip tomorrow night, I'm going to be taking the rest of the week off and starting to prepare for the next card, which is UFC London, which is going to be an absolute banger as well. So thank you guys for tuning in with us here on the MMA Engine. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Long Island.
Yes, sir. Yeah, make sure you guys tune in for the next Monday show for UFC London. If you guys like violence, like I do. I know Mushroom likes violence, Brandon. Like, if you like violence, tune into the Monday show. There is a ton of violence on UFC London. I mean, listen to this real quick. We have fights like Curtis Blades, Tom Aspinall, Krylov. We have Paddy Pimblett. We have Paul Craig on the card. We have Chris Curtis. We have Pierce Makwanamarakani. Jai Herbert is a man of violence as well, Weezy. We're going to get a ton of violence on UFC London. Definitely cannot wait for it. So make sure you guys tune in next week. Best of luck. And good luck for UFC Long Island. Let's make some money, guys.